Once you get complacent with the way you're doing things, that's when competition starts to catch up and when your business starts to go down. So you always have to be in that process of growing and innovating, even if you do the same things all the time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to get you more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Kailash Narasimhan. He's a double board certified surgeon, both in plastic surgery as well as in ENT. And he's in private practice in St. Petersburg, Florida for the past 8 years. Now, I'm just going to say Dr. N for now. He grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, with both parents being physicians. He trained in New York, Michigan, and Ohio, and then completed his residency at UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. And he even went on to marry another physician. So Dr. Narasimhan has published 20 plus peer-reviewed articles in several medical journals, including plastic and reconstructive surgery, and is involved with local organizations such as the Junior League, St. Pete Glitter Queens, and American Lung Association. Dr. Narasimhan, welcome to Beauty in the Biz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I look forward to sharing my just my thoughts on practice and everything else.
Terrific. So we always like to start with, you have all this training, intense training, and you had like double training. And then how did you get from Ohio, a brief journey or brief description of that journey from Ohio all the way to St. Petersburg, Florida?
Yeah. So part of it was just a path of training. When you do residency, you match where they match you. So, I have some connections a little bit to the Midwest. I was raised in Cincinnati. So I lived there through high school. I went out to New York for college and then went to Case Western for medical school. And then I kind of meandered over to Detroit. I did a ENT residency over there, actually. So I really got a basis in head and neck surgery. I enjoyed the facial plastic aspects of that. And then I decided I wanted to do plastic surgery, like the full residency. So I did that down in Dallas at UT Southwestern. So that was 5 + 3 years. And then I practiced in North Texas area for about 3 years before I started my own practice in the Tampa Bay area, and I've been there ever since.
And when you got to St. Petersburg, Florida, did you rent, lease, buy a building? What's your strategy with that?
So there was a surgeon actually leaving the area. So I got to talking, and his timing was good because he was moving out of state. And so I basically took over the nuts and bolts of his office and his lease. And he had some equipment and some hard assets, but basically I transitioned that way. Of course, you're never buying a plastic surgeon's practice like his surgical practice. Many of those patients are one and done. He had some non-surgical aspects to his practice. So it was basically a start from scratch practice, but it was good to have somewhat of an infrastructure when I moved down to the area. And I've been in this place ever since, actually.
So would you recommend doing that, buying someone else's assets? Because it can go either way. It's
Yeah,
really difficult to transfer a surgeon to
right.
another surgeon, their personality, their vibe. Like, can you buy that? Can you buy their goodwill?
You cannot buy the surgery practice. I would say there was some goodwill, and the first year or two, about a third of my surgery patients, were somehow connected to the previous surgeon's practice. So there was that as I was ramping up. I think it takes years to build a surgery practice. So it depends on what how much you're getting and how much you're paying for that. You shouldn't overpay. You shouldn't overpay for goodwill. That's just not worth very much in a surgery practice. There's some non-surgical aspects and some things now, I think, in the aspects of buying and acquiring practices, which are very different, which were not available, 8 years ago when I started.
I do think the long-term lease is a really good asset.
Yeah.
If that was gotten at a good price. But then do you refurbish, is there
Right.
internal OR suite?
I don't have an OR suite. I've always worked out of local outpatient surgery centers, and that's been my model as well. There are some aspects with buying or taking over an office spaces because you've taken over the structure of that other surgeon. So it may not be your particular preference if you had started on your own. But that's one aspect is that, I see that in potential future is maybe acquiring a space with an OR, but so far it's worked out fine without doing that. And for the type of practice that I have, it's been fine.
So are you the only revenue generator in your practice or you've brought others on?
We have an esthetician that does medical grade skincare. So that is, hydrofacials, peels. She does Cyton laser treatments, PRP, things like that. We're about to acquire an injector as well. My practice is mainly facial plastic surgery. So I have done my own injections, and I think those are the type of patients I attract as my injectable patients. But we will be getting an injector in the practice soon as well.
We talk a lot about estheticians here. They're all over the spectrum.
Yep.
Some have been very, very contributory to the practice. Others have just been a drain because they sit around waiting for patients to show up. They're not helping grow their own practice, or they want to
Yeah.
get overpaid. And so, how do you? Well, I don't know if you want to say it out loud, but estheticians, are you happy with your relationship with your esthetician? And is she a good, let's say, surgical referral source for you?
So it kind of works both ways. We do get a handful of consults. Most of her clientele are the non-surgical clientele that want skincare, and kind of we talk about that pyramid from skincare all the way up to surgery, from kind of non-invasive to most invasive. So she's kind of on the bottom in terms of she has a lot of non-surgical patients that are maybe not ready for even injectables or that type of thing. I think the reason why we have it more than anything is because it's a valuable resource for surgery patients to have medical grade skincare treatment. So I refer a lot of my surgical patients to her, and they get hooked because that's the first introduction sometimes to medical grade treatments and services. And I think that's so important to have, even aside from the money, which is very important, the revenue generator. I think it's important to have that non-surgical stream because it integrates well with the non-surgical and with the surgical in a modern plastic surgery practice.
Well, I guarantee after a woman spends a lot of money on facial surgery, she's very interested in keeping that
Yeah.
status quo. So she's as open-minded as she's ever going to be. If she was never partaking in any of this, now she is. Now
Yes.
she's hooked.
Yes.
Yeah. So any staff tips? One of the biggest challenges has been staff, especially after COVID. Have you noticed that? And do you have any tips for hiring and motivating?
Yeah. So with hiring, the first and foremost, so it depends on who you're hiring. I think for us, we have front desk type people, patient care coordinators, kind of first impression coordinators. You have to have someone who's energetic and vibrant. To me, that's one of the most important character traits. Okay. Obviously, everybody you hire has to be honest. They have to be, agreeable, willing to undergo some criticism of themselves, self-reflective. But I think the energy for sales is very important for both the esthetician or injector and the front desk person. Our structure of our practice also, we have a practice manager who kind of follows the rules, policies in the business, and kind of goes through quotes and looks at accounting and things in the office. So that not as much of a sales model, but kind of or a sales personality, but also someone who's very responsible with that on top of things and organized. So you have to kind of play to the strengths of each employee when you're hiring, I think.
What happens often is when you're newer, you try to get some people to wear different hats. And because you don't have the money to pay all these people,
Absolutely. Yep.
So my one thought to that is though, you try to turn somebody like an introverted person who wants to do books, you try to
Yeah.
turn them into the coordinator to sell.
Yep.
And I'm just saying it's a miracle if those two skill sets are included in one person because we just have you noticed that?
And sometimes the bubbly, energetic personalities they can be too talkative, or maybe they don't focus as much on the accounting or the bookkeeping aspect. So yeah, it's kind of hard to have someone who's like ideal at everything. You can't be good at everything. Just like in my plastic surgery practice, I can't be good at everything I do. I choose to focus on something. And so we just can't be a jack of all trades. That's what they say, right? Master of none. So yeah, you initially when you're starting, you may have to have someone play a couple of roles. Maybe you as the surgeon or the owner of the office, do all of the do some different things. You can also third party some of these things like the marketing and the social media for people that are or agencies that are very good at it.
For sure. I think that's going to become a lot more popular, actually. Kind of deciding what your wheelhouse is and delegating the rest.
Sure.
The issue is you can't delegate without watching over things because
Yep.
that's when the money walks away and things start
Hmm.
happening that you don't know about. So if you can somehow, that's going to be way more important. Getting efficient at this and not
Yep.
bringing, you don't need to build an empire necessarily if that's not what you want to do.
Right.
Building efficiency with technology and with outsourcing, I think that's gonna I would focus more on that in today's world than
Yeah.
trying to build this big empire of 30 plus staff. Holy cow. That's a that's
Yeah, go to some of these surgeons' websites and you see like 20 20 staff. They look like a cheerleading squad or something. So you have to really wonder, are they being utilized properly? Maybe they are. Yeah, and third party outsourcing can be important. You don't have to pay taxes for those employees that are helping you in that aspect of your business as well.
yeah. So how important do you think non-surgical is to your surgical practice?
It's very important in certain aspects. It is aspects that complement my practice. And whenever I'm buying a device or looking at a service that I'm going to add to my practice, I have to see how it's going to complement my surgical practice or provide something that's really beneficial. For example, the skincare aspect. We brought on a Cyton laser to resurface the skin, and it's just been fantastic. And it's a good device. It has good results. And that's really what I'm using it for. Injectables also has a very important role, even for the surgical patients. I think Botox has been very important in preempting the need for a lot of brow lift surgery potentially. So I really like that. And when patients have facelifts, I say, hey, listen, you still may need the Botox. You may still need a little filler around the mouth. These are the two areas where surgery may not benefit. So it's not like this or that. Choose one or the other. And many surgery patients actually come to my practice. They've never had an aesthetic procedure in their life. And they say, hey, I don't want to spend on all of these injectables. I just want to have surgery. And that's fine. We can do that. But the maintenance is very important. I think especially Botox is a very good maintenance rejuvenation product to use in complement with the facelift.
The smartest practices know a big part of their practice growth comes from retention, referrals, and repeat treatments, not just from new internet stranger leads. That's why I created the KISS Loyalty Club, a done-for-you system that keeps your patients returning, referring, reviewing, sharing you on social media, and completing surgery. Discover how KISS can grow your own practice revenues by visiting kissloyalty.com today.
There's this one surgeon who's been around a really long time, and I go to all the conferences and I've listened to him speak and say, I've never done Botox or filler on my facelift patients. And I think, how is that possible? Because my face is still moving like crazy. I think you need Botox
Yeah,
filler
I
to
just
keep it up.
there are aggressive ways to do brow lift. You can remove muscles and things, but the movement will come back and this ptosis of the brow. And I think there are ways to do Botox now, which are we're seeing a lot of smooth, refreshed foreheads. But it's just when we get these jowls and things that we have to say the threshold for surgery is now towards that area in terms of, and that injectables are just not as effective for this area.
Right. So regarding the business side of plastic surgery, was your father and your mother, because they were physicians, did, did they know the business side well and pass that along to you? Or did you walk in cold saying, how the heck do I do this?
It was different. They were both actually solo private practice doctors in an era where that was still very sustainable. And
Mm,
we're in an environment and an economy now where that is not as sustainable. I am the only solo practitioner in my entire building. We're in a medical office building. Everybody else is in a group. I did an ENT residency, and many of my ENT colleagues, when they started, were solo practitioners. And now they are all in groups. None of them are by themselves because they have to deal with things like insurance and all of these practical things where working in a group where they contract higher insurance rates is more effective for them. So there was some benefit of my parents, being in that scenario, but the landscape is very different. And also, I am entirely cosmetic. So that is insurance is something where I did very early in my practice, but I don't do it anymore. So the whole stratosphere for for cosmetic out of pocket procedures is very different than the insurance based ones.
For sure. What would you say is the biggest mistake you've made so far that others could learn from?
I would say so. Number one, invest in a device that's going to help your practice in terms of going to help your patients, not anybody else's patients. Okay. I will say we invested in cool sculpting, and I think that it's a good device. It works. But my practice has really evolved to more facial plastic surgery and not as much body contouring, where maybe that device would have been more effective. And so that's just something to think about. At the time, though, I was doing more body contouring procedures. So the devices, I think it's a big spend, it's a big investment. Make sure that you not only get something out of it, but that it's helpful for your patients. That's number one. The revenue will follow after that. Okay. The other thing is really spend some time thinking about office space and location. That can be very important for you in terms of your practice. No location is perfect. Sometimes the best places to be are places you have to rent, even though in Florida, buying can be very, as an asset can be very effective. Maybe not in San Diego or San Francisco, but in Florida, it is. So those are two things to think about. And then always, I think you can never be on autopilot. You always have to be thinking about the next step, the next way to, because once you get complacent with the way you're doing things, that's when competition starts to catch up and when your business starts to go down. So you always have to be in that process of growing and innovating, even if you do the same things all the time.
Well, speaking of that, do you have plans to grow and add more people? You mentioned a nurse injector. Any
Yeah.
chance bringing in an associate or any other plans to bring in other
Yes.
services?
When the injector is the first thing, and then we're going to eventually bring in someone to do more body plastic surgery. And I think those would be the two things that we would add. If you scale up, you have to think about: do you want to? You don't have to, but if you want to, how is it going to again benefit you? There are other models with different franchises and different med spas and things. So that would be another direction that probably we're not going to be doing. But those are the two: the injector and maybe bringing in another plastic surgeon.
But, very strategic. I agree. Yeah. I think doctors can get along a lot better when there are boundaries. So if you did neck up and they did neck down,
Yeah.
and then there's no question about who gets the next lead, kind of
Right.
thing. Um,
Right.
that's the easiest way to blend two big egos together in one building. Just
Yeah, it's, even in those big groups, I think you have to have a niche and not like everybody just does one thing and the other person can't do what that other person does. But I think, yeah, having a niche is really important. And it helps you grow your practice. It helps your marketing, and patients can associate you with something that you really like to do.
right. Let's talk about marketing. In St. Petersburg, I haven't been there for a few years. How competitive is it?
It's competitive. It's very competitive for the population and for the area. I think Tampa is also very much our playing ground in terms of competition. I think per capita there might be more plastic surgeons in Tampa than maybe anywhere else or close to anywhere else. And so, yeah, there's quite a bit of competition for any procedure that you do. There's also competition from non-board certified plastic surgeons, certainly facial plastic surgeons, but also cosmetic surgeons and things that are doing procedures.
So do you pull a lot from Tampa, or do you try to just stay within St. Petersburg? Because that'll affect your marketing approach and the
Yeah.
you're willing to spend on patient attraction. What's your strategy there?
The marketers have said, which I believe you should focus first on your local area and then look outside. And I think, but we do have to look outside because Tampa has a lot of patients and we're very, very close. We're like a 15-20 minute drive. Yeah, I mean, we've looked at all of the different areas, Clearwater as well, even Orlando. And also, again, if you're a pediatrician, it's different. But if you're a plastic surgeon that has a certain niche, such as ethnic rhinoplasty or deep plane facelift, you will get patients come from these other places. We have patients come from the Orlando area. We even get some from the East Coast of Florida as well.
I find when you do ethnic rhinoplasty or even get really, really good at rhinoplasty, you
Hmm.
already set yourself apart from so many others. A lot of
Yeah.
surgeons just stay away from it. It's just there's a lot to a rhinoplasty.
Yeah.
I'm always shocked that there can be 3 days of rhino talk, and you
Yeah.
guys like have 15-minute talks or 10-minute talks all day. I say, how many things can you talk about with a nose? Apparently,
Okay.
it's limitless. My
It's
goodness.
endless for as many of us. For as many talks as there aren't a lot of plastic surgeons that do a lot of rhinoplasty actually,
Right.
because it's just it's a procedure where a lot of surgeons, plastic surgeons, have said, "Listen, I'm not touching this anymore. I tried it early in my practice, and
Mhm.
the amount of wherewithal and maintenance it takes to have that type of a practice is a lot. It's difficult patients. It's small real estate territory. Okay, you've got a few millimeters here or there. It's not like a breast where if the fold is off a little bit, she can hide it in her clothes. No, it's right on the center of her face. So, yeah, for those of us that love it, it's very passionate. You either love it or you're just not going to touch it. For That's kind of how it's been, I think, for many of us rhinoplasty surgeons.
Well, you do a killer video on this. You had probably a news anchor on there, and you showed with a cell phone how
Yeah,
your nose changes depending on the angle and the lighting, because setting expectations has to be number
yeah,
one with a rhino and with almost anything nowadays. You
yeah.
have to like, how do you do that? How do you find out if that patient is on the same page you are?
Well, it's difficult, and even sometimes when you do it, you're like, ah, you still didn't get it, you know. So, I mean, you have to talk to them. We have them send, and sometimes they bring in like an inspiration photo, which is not a guarantee. It's just to say, hey, doc, this is what I'm looking for. And sometimes I say, no, you have really thick skin. That's not something that's going to match. I do a simulation. Some doctors don't do that. I think it's just a good to say, hey, this is the direction that we're going with the shape of your nose, because sometimes they don't know what their nose could look like. They don't understand what we do and what we can achieve humanly, what is humanly possible, both surgically and technically. So they have to see that to see, hey, this is what my nose might look like. But even then, you're right. People see themselves as a selfie or as a cell phone picture. So that's different from a medical grade photograph. So we've really changed. The medical grade photographs is the way we used to see rhinoplasty, but now we're seeing it as a selfie, as an Instagram post. So that's a very different way of looking at your nose.
Well, I think you can't beat it when a cosmetic patient, they can look at photos all day of people similar to them, but
Yeah,
seeing their own simulation, and I have a hump and now I don't have a hump, and don't
right.
oversell it. Just there's the bump, then there's gone. I That's what I did. I wish it was so much more effective when I saw myself.
Yeah,
I just don't see how you do this anymore without really understanding what the patient wants, what they think they want.
right,
I love when they bring in the photos of the celebrity and they're nowhere
right.
near that it
Yeah. I
golly.
mean, we see a lot of that, and the expectations are on steroids now with with social media as well. Before it just used to be that side view hump, but we've got to be good at every angle. You don't walk around like this all day. No, you walk around as a three-dimensional person in all different angles of your nose. And often that frontal view is very important as well. They want to see how straight your nose is because, that's the way they interact with their friends. That's the way they're on social media. So they're looking at it from all different angles. And so, yeah, I mean, that expectation has to be there. But we've come so much with videography and photography now that I think that yeah, the we have to be better as rhinoplasty surgeons.
So regarding lead generation, what's
Mhm.
working for you right now? Where are your leads coming from and where are you spending time trying to get more of them?
At this point, we are getting a fair amount of word of mouth leads, good old fashioned, like that still is a thing, I guess. But we're getting those. So patients of patients of patients who knew each other, that's a good source. And that's helpful often when the economy or like leads are down, like the searches engines are down. But we continue to focus mostly on digital search engine optimization and having a good website with before and afters reviews, just kind of these bread and butter things. We get a handful of questions from social media. I would not say it's a high yield source of referrals, but I think they everything comes together. They look at your website, they look at your searches, they look at your social. And so it's kind of all of those different things. That's what's worked the best for us, and how we get our patients mostly.
How much time are you spending on social media?
I spend time to post. I don't spend as much time to sit there and peruse other people's stuff. You can't go on there without seeing suggested posts because I am a plastic surgeon. I see what other people are doing, but I spend time. It takes time to post. It takes time to create a post. I post most of my own clinical stuff because I understand what I did the best.
Mhm.
But yeah, if I wasn't so keen on it in my business, I would. Many of my friends, my college friends, are never on social media, so I have to be on it because that's my business to
Yeah.
do that, to market on that.
I do recommend, I love that you're handling the clinical side. You've done a very good job somehow of getting a lot of patients to come on with you
Hmm.
and show their faces and their bodies. You've done very well with that. Any tips for how you're getting them to consent to photos and
Yeah.
to video
Well,
testimonials?
you have to ask, and many of them don't. Many of them don't. It's you can't. You have to expect that many of them are not going to say I don't feel comfortable with it. And some of the best results, some of the models and actresses that I've had just don't want to do that because many of them don't want to say they've had their nose done. And that's another thing. It's on their nose, it's on their face. They just don't want to be on social. But you just have to ask and say, hey, this is an educational thing that would help others because I'm sure you looked at, because that's the thing. They want to look at photos of other patients, but when you ask them, they're hesitant to release their results. So you just have to keep doing it. And yeah, I mean, we try to make it fun in the office, videos and things, and just show it as an educational point. Sometimes if they have a really good result, they're willing to share because they're very happy and they want to give back. But it's kind of like paying forward to some extent for them.
A couple tips there. It's definitely a numbers game, but
Yeah.
it's also how you present it and who presents it. So
Hmm.
you will get a yes way more often than your staff will.
Yes. I
And
was going to say, yep.
and I
I
would
do that
start,
myself. Yeah.
yep.
I ask them myself. I do not have my staff ask that because you don't want the patient to think that it's somehow some templated rehearsed thing that we're going to just ask like that. No, you want to kind of have it from the heart. So yeah, I think it's important to ask for
And the
some.
timing is everything. When
Right.
they are totally ecstatic about their result
Right.
and they are
Right.
loving you, that's the perfect time to say, you know what? I think you got a great result too.
Yeah.
And other patients would love to see that.
Yeah.
It just helps them make a good decision. So, would you
Sure.
mind? Would you mind? Is a really good starter sentence. Would you mind? And then I would start with the full enchilada. Would you mind being on a video with me right now? And we'll just shoot it and just ask a couple questions. If they
Yeah.
don't mind that, would you mind at least can I have the photos? Oh, you would mind that. What if I crop until comfortable? Because
Yeah.
then what I'm doing is I'm starting with can I have everything? And if I can't have everything, okay, what can I have? You know?
Right.
So if it's not the whole face, can I at least have the mid? And then if I can't have that, can I at least get a review? you know?
I think that's okay for face like neck. The problem with the nose is that I've had patients say that when you don't show the eyes, you're just missing out on the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like it part of the seeing the face and the eyes is just part of seeing the nose. And you lose some of that luster when you crop out the eyes. But yes, sometimes it's better than nothing, particularly if they have a big hump or something. You can still see that fine on the nose patients. But yeah, we try to have sort of the whole face if possible. Yeah.
I would definitely go for the whole face, but otherwise get what
Yeah.
you can. I don't want to leave empty-handed anymore because
Right.
everything counts.
Yep.
Well, if you can show quantity, that's very helpful. Quality is fantastic, but not a little quality. Like now you have to have quality and quantity, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Ay, ay, yeah. Um,
Yeah. No, it's a different game for marketing now. It's very difficult, and you have to have patience do that. So it's an important aspect.
are you doing any of the Google AdWords or pay-per-click?
We were doing them. We were doing some local service ads. So we have done those in the past. Sometimes the Google pay-per-click is not a very high yield, and you have to really gauge what procedure you're targeting and also how effective your campaign is. One good thing about that, of course, you can track the ROI very well
Mhm.
by having a landing page with your Google with your Google ads. So, but we were doing that. We're not doing Google ads at this point. We may return to that later.
Well, you have to know your audience too, because
Hmm.
if you have a competitor who's willing to put in 20K a month and you're
Right.
willing to do two, you're in trouble because it's a bidding process. So
Yep.
you really have to be on top of how you do that. And another tip that I have, a lot of your internet marketers, they're trying to get you a lot of leads. So they will split up your budget by several procedures.
Hmm.
Personally, I would focus on one or two, put as much money into that, test it quickly. The best
Yeah.
part about Google AdWords, you don't have to wait 6 months before the SEO
Right.
kicks in. You know,
Right.
you
Right.
spend the money, it either works or it doesn't. You tweak it or put more money in and test it again, or you drop
Mhm.
it, you know?
Those lead forms are easy because they're at the top of the page and people will fill them out. The best lead, of course, is the lead that puts the most effort into finding you, right? Calling your office, talking to a human being, telling you, booking that's the ideally, and they've spent the time maybe on your website and things. So, but yeah, it's a funnel. So yeah, the more you get, the more you can kind of filter out and find the best ones.
Here's one more tip, and then I'm done for the day. The phones have become people want to automate their phones or they put in
Mhm.
the phone tree from hell. I am shocked that they're not understanding that a phone lead is the
Mhm.
hottest lead they're ever going to have.
Yeah. Yep.
Nobody ever had to pick up the phone in today's world. They'll just keep filling out your form or
Right.
DMing
Right.
you. And I
Right.
think, for heaven's sakes, triage those calls. Get a human being on that call for that
Yep.
person who literally made a phone call to you and not the other ways of communication.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, during business hours, we don't have anything automated. I would say that it's very important to have a human being, and those leads are yeah, they're making the effort to talk on the phone, which in 2025, people are not making that effort. They're not picking up their phones. How often do you see the phone ring and just let it go? People are not picking up the phone anymore. So
No.
we also have some channels like texting, but they're not as good a lead as someone that's going to call us.
Texting's fine, but it's gonna be how much is it? Question mark. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. No, I know.
there's not a
Because it's a
discussion
lazy
there.
way to reach out to somebody as opposed to talking to them. Because talking takes effort, and there's going to be some interaction back and forth. It's like people that comment on social media; they don't ever have any kind of response or interaction. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how we communicate and bond with each other. We
yeah,
talk, you know,
right,
so,
right,
um,
exactly.
all right, so, we're coming down to the end. Let's talk about, fun or serious or scary, patient or staff story you care to share.
Yeah, I mean, so with patients, I think for me, um, many of those, I won't say, hey, there's like one particular rhinoplasty patient. Although I will say one patient I really enjoyed doing was a rhinophyma patient. Those patients he had really kind of for lack of a better term, the potato nose. So we did that as well as his rhinoplasty, and that was one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. He was teased and ridiculed, and that I think is a very unique procedure, and maybe go back and think about why we do plastic surgery, even cosmetic aesthetic procedures, is to make people feel better, have better confidence, restore. And to me, that's a very that was a very important case. But for me, also, it's just been evolution with a lot of these rhinoplasty patients. Just uh, you know, tailoring their expectations, and how do we do that? That has been the biggest transformation for me in my practice. Is just that initial consult part is so important for the end result. And so we've added some new things to maybe improve on that, make that better. And so we're still trying. It's not a perfect science, but that has been it's one of the most important things with any plastic surgery, but especially with nasal surgery.
Yeah, for sure. And tell us something interesting we don't know about you.
Sure. I mean, I like to play competitive tennis. I got into that like post COVID. And for me, I think it's important, even backing up, like as a surgeon, as a doctor, we're so busy with our practices and with our life to like have a hobby or a passion that keeps you focused on something else. It's obviously good exercise, and gets your heart rate going, and keeps you fit, but also keeps you very focused. So not just like jogging or just like, random exercise, but like a focused exercise or like a discipline you can get better at, whether that's like an instrument or a sport, or something, you kind of work on the left brain a little bit or kind of other focused aspects. And I think that's an important thing for me that I've really, especially once the medical education ended and everything else, you don't want to be so one dimensional, I think, with yourself.
Good for you. Well, it's all about mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't ignore one and let the others go,
Right, right. And I think as a surgeon too, you got to take care of your body. The body is very important, the back and the neck. And so, ergonomically, they've gotten better with how we're doing lighting and things because you're doing those long facelift surgeries and things. So you want to feel good about your body. You'll have better results. I think as a surgeon, you'll feel better about yourself as well.
For sure. If anybody wanted to get a hold of you, I know your website is
Mhm.
narasimhanplasticsurgery.com, and so
Sure.
is your Instagram. Can you just say your name because I'm sure I'm killing it?
Yeah, Narsimhan. Yeah, Narsimhan Plastic Surgery. Yeah, they can. Of course, we've had people go on our contact forms and fill them out that are interested. I can give you my email, and they can communicate that way. And I'm happy to reach out by phone for whoever's interested in chatting.
You want to just say what your email is?
Sure. Yeah, my email. Yeah, my email. You can email me at n Kailash 100. So Nkailash 100 at yahoo.com. And I'm happy to respond. And you can also, our Instagram page is Narsimhan Plastic Surgery. So at Narsimhan, you can also send a message and I can be reached that way as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll be watching
Thank
your
you.
career as you progress. And everyone, that's going to wrap it up for us today. If you would so kindly give me a review at Beauty and the Biz so we can grow our audience. And then if you've got any questions or feedback for me, please leave them on my website at katherinemaley.com, or you can always DM me as well on Instagram at katherinemaleymba. Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.